Yo, what's going on, y'all? It's Cone back here again today for another video, and today I'm going to be making my way too early 2024 NBA award predictions. The reason they're way too early is because the season isn't until October. There's still a number of big moves to be made, and it's just hard to tell at this point who's actually going to win these awards, but I thought it would be fun to preview some of my leading candidates right now. I'll pick a winner, of course, talk about some of my honorable mentions, and a few dark horses I think you should keep an eye out for in this upcoming season. We're going to go through all the awards: MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Most Improved, Coach of the Year, Executive of the Year, and the new Clutch Player of the Year award. Going to talk about every single one of them. I'm also going to try to go somewhat out of the box for some of these picks. Some of them it's hard to do so, but I'm going to try and be a little bit different on some of my selections. Of course, these will probably change by the time the season rolls around, but for right now, leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these videos, and comment down below who your pick is right now for each of these awards. To start off, let's go ahead and get Rookie of the Year out of the way. It's almost assuredly going to be Victor Wembanyama going over to the San Antonio Spurs. He's got a chance right from the get-go to be one of their top offensive options, which I imagine he will, plus the defensive impact, which I believe is going to be incredible from the beginning. Him, Jeremy Sohan over there in the front court. I think the Spurs have a chance to be a pretty solid defense and better than people expect in this upcoming season, which I also think could play well into Victor's case. He's going to get blocks, he's going to get steals, rack up some points, boards. He's going to have the full statistical output that typically you see of Rookie of the Year guys. I think it's pretty clear that Vic's going to end up winning this award. There's a reason why he's not just the favorite to win, but he is like a runaway favorite for this award. Now, I don't think he's alone in contention. I do think there are a few guys who could catch up with him, in particular Chet Holmgren and Scoot Henderson. You know, being a Thunder fan, I want to see Chet win the award, and I'm going to root for him to do so. And I do believe if the Thunder take a big jump like I think we can, we're one of the best defenses in the league, and maybe he's one of the top defenders, maybe he even makes all defense as a rookie, then there's a chance that Chet could end up taking the award because of the team's success and his contributions to that, but I don't think he's going to put up nearly as many overall stats as Victor will in his rookie season, so I think that kind of hinders him. Scoot Henderson also is going to be in conversations over there in Portland, especially now with Dame on his way out, but they do also have Anthony Simons over there, who's probably going to average over 20 points per game. Same thing with Jeremy Grant. Shaedon Sharpe could be in for a second-year breakout, so Scoot, I think, will put up maybe like 15, 16 points and quite a few dimes, but I don't think the Blazers are going to be very good, and overall, again, I just don't know if he'll have the overall output like Victor, who's going to get steals, blocks, boards, in addition to points and probably a few dimes here and there. There are some dark horses I want to mention. Of course, Brandon Miller went second overall, and I think if the Hornets clear up some space at the wing position, he could be one of the candidates, but I just think it's too tough for him right now because they've got Gordon Hayward still over there. Miles Bridges just came back into the fold of things. He's also really young. I could see him struggling in his rookie season as he continues to try and figure it out. So even though I think Brandon Miller is going to be really good down the line, I don't know if I'd fully consider him a Rookie of the Year candidate, but I have to mention him here because he was the second overall pick. Keontae George is someone else that I'm keeping an eye on for the Utah Jazz. I think there's a real chance that he ends up starting for a part of this season. Love his game. He showed out in Summer League. I've become a big fan of his, and I hope he gets a lot of opportunities early. And if the Jazz are pretty surprising, maybe they make a playoff push and Keontae George is balling, maybe he gets some consideration. Next, let's talk Most Improved Player, which is one of my favorite award races every single season. It's super cool to see guys take those leaps that maybe we didn't think that they could. Lauri Markkanen was definitely a candidate last year, but he wasn't the leader for basically anybody. Then he comes in, balls out for the Jazz, becomes an all-star. He was in all NBA conversations, and now he is the best player over there and a franchise cornerstone. I love that about this award, and so it's always one of my favorites to predict, and there are a number of very clear favorites that people are most likely going to select. But for me, I want to go with someone a little bit different, and I'm going to go with Obi Toppin of the Indiana Pacers. I love picking the guys that are in a new situation and I think have a chance to excel in an expanded role. I think that's exactly what Obi Toppin has over there in Indiana. He's been coming off the bench for years now over in the New York Knicks behind Julius Randle, which does make sense. He's an all-NBA player, but when Obi Toppin's gotten opportunities to start and get heavier minutes, he's looked great. This past season, in the last few games of the year, I think it was the last 5 or 6, Julius Randle was out with an injury, so Obi Toppin stepped into the starting lineup, and he was amazing. He scored around 20 points per game. He was doing it incredibly efficiently, handling the ball pretty well. Of course, the athleticism is there. There are a lot of Knicks fans that were really heartbroken when they traded Obi Toppin because they believe that he could excel in a starting role if he was just given that chance. Now over in Indiana, not only does he have that chance, but he's perfectly set up to succeed. Tyrese Halliburton is an incredible playmaker who can get him lobs and also hit him on cuts. He's got some scores to take some pressure off like Benedict Mathurin. Bruce Brown is an incredible transition player who I also think will play well off of Tyrese and Obi Toppin. Miles Turner is down low blocking shots and of course being able to stretch the floor, allowing Obi Toppin to operate inside and again thrive off cuts and his incredible athleticism around the rim. I believe that Obi's in a perfect position. I think there's a real chance that he starts this season. There's a chance that Jarris Walker ends up getting that spot and this pick doesn't end up working out for me. But if Obi Toppin gets a chance to start and he jumps to around 16, 17 points per game like I think he can, we're going to be talking a lot about Obi Toppin as the most improved player. So I'm going to go with him. I love the opportunity that he's got over now there in Indiana, and I just like that Indiana team a lot in general. Some of my honorable mentions, Mikal Bridges, of course, he's the favorite. He was popping off in the second half of the season over there for Brooklyn. If he does it over a full year and maybe makes an all-star team, there's a good chance that he does win it. Austin Reeves maybe is a player that could jump up and really establish himself as that third guy over there for the Los Angeles Lakers. He had a great second half of the season as well. If James Harden gets traded, Tyrese Maxey will definitely come up a lot in this conversation as someone who can maybe jump to around 25 points per game. Alperen Şengün, Scotty Barnes, Evan Mobley, Josh Giddey, Franz Wagner, all those like third-year players are also, of course, going to be in some of those talks. And I think quite a few of those guys could be top contenders. Jordan Poole now over there in Washington having free reign of the offense most likely. He's going to put up a bunch of points and a ton of shots. There's a chance that he gets in that conversation if the Wizards are better than I think they're going to be. So yeah, those are some of the top contenders. There's always going to be a million different guys that could win this award because, again, it's usually someone who somewhat comes out of nowhere. There are some dark horses that I like a lot in this race. Derek White is one of those guys, now getting the starting point guard opportunity over there in Boston for the first time since he was in San Antonio. He had a mini breakout season last year, and there was a stretch where Marcus Smart was out, and even Jaylen Brown missed time, and Derek White won Player of the Week. He was dominant, scoring efficiently. He makes a bunch of hustle plays. He's now, again, got that starting opportunity, so maybe he could be someone that jumps up in some points per game and is part of a Celtics team that gets the 1 seed, and he's in that conversation. Onyeka Okongwu, if the Hawks do end up trading Clint Capella like it's rumored that they will, I think Onyeka is someone that could definitely end up taking that award. Patrick Williams as well. I'm always going to hope that he has a breakout season because I still do believe in his game. If the Bulls eventually commit to a rebuild either leading into this season or partway through the year, maybe Patrick Williams starts to get some of that talk. For Coach of the Year, I'm going to go with Mark Daigneault of the Oklahoma City Thunder. He finished top 3 in Coach of the Year voting this past year, and I think, again, he's going to be there, but this time he's actually going to win the award. As a Thunder fan, I'm very confident that we take a jump this season with Chet now in town, continued progression from Shea, Giddey, J-Dub, amongst many others. I believe that this could be the year where the Thunder maybe don't get the championship contention, but start to announce to the league that, hey, we are here. And I think Coach Mark is a big part of that. I love the defensive scheme that he's put in place so far. He's gotten guys to really buy in. We typically don't see young teams be really solid defensively, especially without a true rim protector like the Thunder lacked the entirety of last season. Chet is going to immediately fill that hole. The Thunder are going to be good. And I think Mark overall is just a phenomenal coach. Also, we typically see Coach of the Year go to coaches of teams that kind of defy expectations or take a jump, which again is exactly what I think the Thunder can do this season. Honorable mentions go to Frank Vogel for the Suns. If they're maybe the 1 seed with Bradley Beal now over there in town, Frank Vogel as a first-year head coach over there could win the award. Darvin Ham if the Lakers are one of the top seeds. Eric Spoelstra, if Dame comes to town, I think the Heat could fight for that 1 seed. And maybe Spo finally gets the Coach of the Year award that he probably should have won maybe multiple times at this point. Michael Malone, of course, Joe Mazzulla, Adrian Griffin for the Bucks, Nick Nurse now over with the Sixers, Taylor Jenkins for the Grizzlies if they survive the John Morant absence, JB Bickerstaff for the Cavaliers. There are a number of guys. Some dark horses I have are Rick Carlisle for the Pacers. I talked about them a little bit with the Obi Toppin talk. If the Pacers take a leap like I think they can, Rick Carlisle is going to be in conversations to win this award. And Quinn Snyder for the Atlanta Hawks. If Atlanta becomes a top team in the Eastern Conference, maybe not even one of the top squads, but say they get like a 4 or 5 seed, I think he could also get some consideration for the Coach of the Year award. Next, let's talk Sixth Man of the Year. And for this one, I think I'm going to go with Chris Paul for the Golden State Warriors. He has kind of made it known that he wants to start, or at least he believes he will. I don't think he's going to. I just don't believe a lineup of Chris Paul, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, and Draymond Green as your starting five works consistently. I think that could be a great closing lineup, but it's a little too small for my liking as a starting lineup. I think Kevon Looney brings a lot to that team with his defensive tenacity, his rebounding, his overall hustle. He's important to that squad. So I do believe that Looney will start. Chris Paul will come off the bench for a lot of games. He might start here and there, but overall, I expect it to be a consistent theme that Chris Paul is not in that starting lineup, and therefore, I think he will be the sixth man of the year. The playmaking, I could see him averaging like 7-8 assists off the bench in a lot of minutes. The points aren't going to be a ton. Like, I think he'll average around like 12, 13, maybe even less points, but I do believe the playmaking and overall impact could be enough to swing the award in his favor. Plus, he's got the name recognition of being one of the greatest point guards of all time. Of course, there are going to be other contenders like Malcolm Brogdon, who just won it, and now with no Marcus Smart in the rotation, they need even more from him. So hopefully, if he comes back from that injury as nearly 100% of what he was last season, Brogdon will again be in that conversation. Emmanuel Quickley, who was right there with Malcolm Brogdon all the way up until the end of the year, really solid defensively, the playmaking, the scoring. He does a little bit of everything, and if he takes another jump, maybe this is the year that he takes home the award. Some dark horses, Gabe Vincent or D'Angelo Russell, either one of them, whoever ends up coming off the bench for that team as the backup point guard. I think both could be guys that end up making some noise off the bench. I've also got Jaden Hardy for the Mavericks. He had a great season this past year. I think he could replicate that and then some with a second-year jump. And AJ Griffin for the Atlanta Hawks, if they trade a couple of guys to kind of clear up some space. And plus, I just think AJ Griffin should get a lot of minutes. Maybe he could shock some people as a second-year player that's in the talks for the best bench player in the league this upcoming season. Let's quickly fly through Executive of the Year. I'm going to go with James Jones of the Phoenix Suns. The Bradley Beal acquisition was probably the biggest of this entire offseason. You've now got a big four over there. Of course, they gave up Chris Paul. They brought in a bunch of role players. They made a bunch of moves. And if it works out for the Suns, like I think it can if they stay healthy, he'll probably be the runaway favorite to win this award. Although I do think Brad Stevens, if the Boston Celtics are as good as I think they can be with Kristaps Porzingis, he'll be in considerations. Pat Riley, if the Heat pull off the Dame trade and are a top seed, will probably also be in top consideration. He might even be the runaway for the award if they do get Damian Lillard and don't give up too much. Also throw Trent Redden of the Los Angeles Clippers out there just in case they end up trading for James Harden. I can say I mentioned him on this list, but if they don't trade for him, I don't see any way he wins the award. For Clutch Player of the Year, I'm going to be very biased and go with my favorite player, my favorite team, Gilgeous-Alexander. He was clutch this past year. He had a number of game winners to begin the season. He was great in our play and win over the New Orleans Pelicans, saved us a number of times in that one. He's just really good in those big time moments. And again, I think there's going to be more of a spotlight on the Thunder this season than there was last year. And because of that renewed attention and his ability to knock down those big time buckets, I'm going to go with Shea as my pick here. Yes, it's biased, but it's my video. For the honorable mentions, De'Aaron Fox, who won the inaugural award last year, think he could win the honors again. Damian Lillard, if he's sent over to Miami or another spot where he can compete for a championship, he's going to, again, have a renewed spotlight on him. So being one of the most clutch players in the league for pretty much his entire career, that'll probably be a lot of momentum towards him winning the honors. DeMar DeRozan was in talks for this last year, so he's going to be here again. Same thing with Jimmy Butler and Jalen Brunson, who are also some of the most clutch players in the league last year. For Defensive Player of the Year, I've gone back and forth between a couple of guys, but I think for now I've settled on Anthony Davis. One thing that makes this a kind of bold pick is the fact that you now have to play 65 games to win major awards according to the new CBA. AD hasn't really done that much over the course of his career. I think the last time he did that was the first 2-3 seasons of his career. He pretty rarely plays that many games. I'm going to go ahead and try and bank on the fact that he will play that many. He's a force defensively. I mean, we saw how good he looked out there when he was actually playing. He was looking like not just a DPOY candidate, but an MVP candidate. Of course, the Lakers were struggling at that point, but LA is much better than they were at that portion of the season now. I think they're one of the top teams in the Western Conference, can be one of the best defenses, and I'm just going to hope that Anthony Davis actually stays healthy, and if he does, I think this could be the year where he finally wins the award. My honorable mentions consist of a bunch of guys that were in talks to win this last year. Jaren Jackson, who's the reigning DPOY, I think he could do it again, although I do believe the media will probably consider having Marcus Smart, a former DPOY, on the roster, a bit of a hindrance to him actually winning the honors again. I don't think it should, but I could see it being a possibility. Evan Mobley finished in top 3 last year. I think he'll do it again, or at least be up there in that talk. The Cavs were the best defense last year, could repeat that feat. Brook Lopez getting a bit older, so I don't know if he'll quite be as formidable on the defensive end as he was last year, but again, with him finishing top 3, I've got to put him on this list. Giannis Antetokounmpo will always also be in those conversations, with the Bucks probably being one of the league's better defenses. Some dark horses include Robert Williams. If the Celtics are as locked down defensively as I think they could be, he will also be in those conversations. I think he might have won it a few years ago when Marcus Smart did, if he stayed healthy. If he stays healthy this year, maybe he ends up taking it home. Chet Holmgren, I believe that the Thunder, maybe biasly, could be a top 10, maybe even top 5 defense in the league this season. And Chet is, of course, going to be a big factor in that as a rim protector. Actually, now on the roster, we have one. So if we're one of the better defenses, we take a leap. Chet maybe gets some consideration. Bam Adebayo as one of the league's best defenders, especially if the Heat are playing up towards the 1 seed if Damian Lillard comes to town. And Victor Wembanyama, I've got to put him on this list. Same reason as Chet. Maybe he comes in and just makes a dramatic defensive impact for the Spurs. They make some noise, maybe make it up to the play-in. And all of a sudden, hey, you've got to consider Victor in this race as a rookie. Finally, we have MVP, which is one that I really want to go a bit different with. And so I picked Jason Tatum from the Boston Celtics to win the MVP award. He's not like the most obscure contender for this. He was one of the top candidates for the first month and a half, 2 months of last season, but he fell down the standings a little bit. He did finish top 5, but I feel like most people don't take him seriously as an MVP candidate. I believe that this could be the year where he actually gets it done. I've talked at length on this channel over the last few weeks about how I think Boston is maybe the best team in the Eastern Conference right now and could maybe win up to 60 games. Jason Tatum being the best player on that team immediately will get him in conversations. I believe the talent now over there on the roster can make them one of the best teams in the league on both sides of the ball. If he shows more consistency than he has in the past few seasons, Jason Tatum will be one of the front runners. And again, I want to go a little bit different, so I'm going with JT. I'm not going with any of the usual suspects. I'm going to say Tatum goes ahead as the Celtics get the 1 seed, and he wins the MVP for 2024. Again, this pick might change by the time the season rolls around, but I really like him as kind of a dark horse pick that I think has a legitimate shot. For honorable mentions, we of course have the usual suspects. Joel Embiid, if Harden leaves, but the Sixers still remain contenders and maybe get like a 1 seed or something, maybe he repeats. Jokic, of course, coming off the finals MVP, now being considered by most people to be the best player in the world, is always going to be in MVP talks. Maybe Giannis has a revenge season after the Bucks went out in the first round and he dominates the league en route to a 1 seed, winning his 3rd MVP. Luka's always going to be talked about as a preseason candidate. It's just a matter if the Mavericks can be good enough, which maybe this is the season that they put it together. Some dark horses that I have include Shea. Again, if the Thunder take a big time leap with him finishing top 5 this past season, if we finish with like 50 wins and a top 4 seed, maybe Shea gets some talks. Anthony Davis or LeBron James, one of the 2 guys from the Lakers, I think could be considered for the MVP award, especially if Anthony Davis is fighting for Defensive Player of the Year like I think he might be. And Damian Lillard, if he goes over to Miami, I like him a lot as a dark horse MVP pick. Again, I think they could get the 1 seed. The spotlight will now be on him over there in Miami in that new spot. He just had arguably the best offensive season of his entire career this past year. So if he replicates something similar to that now as one of the top seeds in the Eastern Conference, why can't he win an MVP award? Also for honorable mentions, I forgot to mention like Steph Curry, of course, one of the best in the world, always going to be considered one of the top contenders, especially if the Warriors can get back up to one of the top seeds. Kevin Durant, if the Phoenix Suns are dominating and he's like their best player, maybe, although I think having Booker and Bradley Beal takes away a lot from his potential candidacy. So yeah, just a couple more guys, and there are many more that I could mention, like Donovan Mitchell if the Cavs take a jump, amongst others, but I don't want this list to go on forever. So yeah, those are my 2024 NBA award picks, my dark horses, my honorable mentions. If there's someone that I didn't mention in this video for any of the award categories that you think should get some more consideration, go ahead and drop them down below. I'm sure there's names that I skipped over that I just forgot about when I was making this list. So make sure to let me know down below. Again, leave a like and subscribe, please, if you enjoyed. It helps the channel out a ton. Comment down below some of your award winners, maybe some of your dark horses that I didn't consider. And yeah, I appreciate y'all watching. I'll see y'all later. Everyone say it back.